All right. Hello and welcome everybody to the number one generative AI podcast in the world.
In South Bay, at least.
Well, it's not like the number one. It's actually our first one, but you got to have big hopes. So we are technically the biggest and best generative AI meetup podcast, which I think we're the only one. So that makes us number one. So a little bit of background. You're probably wondering like, who the heck are these guys? Well, I'm Mark. And this is Shashank here, my co-host of this podcast. And together we run the South Bay Generative AI Group. So the South Bay Generative AI Group is a small meetup group in the South Bay, Silicon Valley, some people may call it, where we go and meet every Thursday and have various events. So we have some events that are chill, where we'll go and just chat with each other at Panera, and then other events that are a little bit more organized. We will go and have speakers. We have ran a couple workshops. There's been we've been hosted at a few different companies and whatnot. But every week, it's every Thursday without fail. So I hope you guys can come. It's actually been growing to one of the larger meetups for generative AI. We now have
And
almost
larger meetups in general too.
That's true, actually. Yeah, we now have 1,992 members, I think. So we're rated up on 2,000 coming up real quick. So that big triple zero. Yeah. So for this podcast, we're gonna keep it a little informal. In the future, we want to interview people that we meet at the events, where we can bring you guys the experts for generative AI. But for today, we're just going to be trying to introduce the hosts.
Yeah, future you'll get experts. For now, it's just us.
Yeah, not exactly experts, but more of enthusiasts, you could say. So I'm going to be running it today, and I'll be interviewing my co-host, Shashank. So, Shashank, let's start a little about you. Who are you, and where are you from?
So thanks, Mark. The very enthusiastic co-host to my generative AI meetup group. I'm Shashank Bharadwaj. I am a software engineer at Google. Been working there for about 6 years on the Nest and Google Home team. Before that, I used to work at a couple different startups. Did my software, computer science, and statistics undergrad in Illinois and SF State. I've been enthusiastic about AI for a while, and it was mainly in like the corporate big data behind the scenes, and now we're kind of seeing it come into the hands of individuals, and we're able to play around with it. I was able to give my mom and dad ChatGPT, and they're like, "Oh wow, this is this is terrible, but this is also kind of cool in some different ways." So that's a little bit about me.
Okay. Thanks, Shashank. So I'm curious, why did you decide that you wanted to start like an AI group? Because for the record, it wasn't my idea to start it. It was Shashank's idea. We were together at a mutual friend's wedding, and Shashank was just showing me, was like, yeah, I happened to make this meetup group. And I just set it at this bar in Sunnyvale. So Sunnyvale is like a town in the South Bay. It's like right by Google's headquarters. And he's like, but don't worry, Mark. Like, I haven't posted it yet. And then we're looking at his phone. It's like, it's like, what? There's already 15 people RSVP. It's like, oh no, this is a big problem. So it's like, all right. Well, then we called the bar. Like, hey, like, can we run an event here? And the bar's like, yeah, okay. And then, we had the first event there, and it turned out that was not the right move because nobody actually drank any alcohol. So it was just like me and Shashank just like ordering drink after drink after drink, and the rest of the event, all the group members are just kind of not drinking, just chatting. So we learned and moved to Panera after that, which turned to be like a better um, location. But yeah, Shashank, why did you start it?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think it was what, like May of last year, 2023. We were at Russell's wedding in Michigan, in the middle of nowhere, and I had started this group because I was interested in Stable Diffusion, Midjourney, V point something in 2022, was it? Um, and I wanted to start the group back then because there wasn't really um, anyone tinkering or building things with these tools here. Maybe in SF, but not here in Silicon Valley, the heart of startups and whatnot. But life happened. I went back to India for about a year. I came back and boom, we had ChatGPT. The whole world was set ablaze. People were like ushering this as the next iPhone, next internet, maybe even bigger. So I was like, oh, okay. There's got to be something. There's got to be people working on stuff, hackathons, meetup groups, and there were to some extent, but all of that was happening in SF. So I started driving back an hour each way from Sunnyvale, South Bay, from work, and I was like, man, I wish we should do something here. So we started the meetup group, or I just created a page, and there were I think like 300 people who joined the group, which didn't have anything on it. It had a blurb that I posted from ChatGPT, no events, nothing else. And I was like, Mark, we should probably do something with this. And yeah, here we are.
Yeah. So we've been running the group now for it's almost been a year now, I think.
Close to
Yeah,
that.
which is
May, yeah.
yeah, which is pretty crazy. A little under a year, but pretty wild. So Shashank, like now that you've been running it, the group has been growing. Like, where do you see the group growing in the future? Like, how do you want to build it? Like, if I'm a person who's never joined the group before and I just want to check it out, like, I kind of got a little idea what to expect from the beginning, but like, what other things that like do you want to see happen in the future? Like, where do you see the group going?
Um, so I guess what do people want from the group? For me, I could get the best news, the latest news from Twitter, from blog posts, from other podcasts online, news articles, way more accurate, way more detailed. Maybe even ask ChatGPT, like get all the information I want in an instant. But it's kind of hard to maintain momentum in any project and have like a holistic understanding of something without another person to bounce ideas off of. So that's why I started going to meetups in the first place. There's like a huge concentration of meetups in SF, and that's kind of what I wanted to have here, and I'm hoping to grow that here, hoping to grow a community of enthusiasts, of tinkers, of builders, and of experts who can be mentors to other people who are interested. So, like Mark mentioned, we run this meetup every single Thursday, um, and we have one later today. And we have a couple of people messaging me, "Oh, we're learning about ML, and I'm not sure if it's going to be too technical, or if I might be lost." And I was like, we have a variety of people, from complete novices, from engineers, product people, designers, managers, VPs, and experts who work on these LLMs. There was one guy from Bard, I don't know, like, so it's a variety of people. And I think I'd like to continue growing the community and providing value to the community in whatever way we can.
Yeah, that's great. So, Shashank, what are some interesting projects that you've seen get introduced to you? Because we all can go on Twitter, we can check Hacker News, we can see all the ways that we can get all the AI updates. But like, what are some projects that have maybe been introduced to you through the group that you wouldn't have found through other sources?
Whew. That's a tricky one. Because I think you find the best ideas on Hacker News, on the big websites. The interesting ones I've found are tackling problems that are less sexy, less obvious. Um, so we kind of go back and forth about this one. One of our members is working on how do you want to say it? Like an embodied AI.
Yeah, so I think like the way I would describe it, because I think I know where you're getting at.
Yeah.
I would call it an AI avatar. So I think the idea is if you think about ChatGPT is kind of like a brain floating in a vat in a way where it's like it's not actually like realistic and sure, maybe the closest thing to a brain floating in a vat is like Stephen Hawking or something like that, but um, it's not like the normal human experience. Like with the normal human experience, you can like use your arms, use your legs, you can see things, you can use all your senses, right? So this member, he argues that in order to for AI to achieve sentience, you need to be able to have like all your um, extremities, so to say. Like you need to be able to see, you need to be able to feel, all of these things. Is that? Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think uh, what you described is like building an AI by creating an environment that most accurately represents the human experience, from vision to smells to sounds, putting this character in this three-dimensional, multi-sensory experience, and having that character learn. So I guess there's a lot of experiments from like NVIDIA and in the gaming industry where you have characters learn movement and decision making, pathfinding, and things like that. So this is kind of like that, but maybe more so. I think he has some visions on where to take this, and I've had a couple arguments about the marketability of this idea, and I think where this might make a lot of sense is in um, how do I put it? Like industrial applications where you have extremely dangerous environments, mission critical systems where there's a lot of things going on: sounds, smells, temperatures, small movements that can drastically change the outcome of what you're trying to do. So these kinds of environments. Whereas I think he wants just to create AGI out of this somehow. Um,
For those that don't know, AGI is artificial general intelligence. Shashank, can you define AGI, artificial general intelligence? I can try, but I want to hear you define it.
that's a tough one. I think you can argue about semantics a lot. I don't know if people agree on what intelligence is, but you can think about ChatGPT as a very narrow intelligence, um, or even taking a step back, like the um, Google search autocomplete from 5 years ago, which was very smart in a very narrow domain of suggesting the next few characters for the word that you're typing. Um, so that could be like a narrow intelligence. ChatGPT is a slightly broader intelligence, but it's still text based. It has its limitations. It's still just like a fancy next word autocomplete. So like a artificial general intelligence would be something that is um, intelligent in every aspect, every axis. It can think, reason, remember, and mimic a human being's intelligence as much as possible.
Yeah, I think you pretty much nailed it. I mean, I would probably just add on to that that in a certain sense, the way I kind of view AGI is basically just like the computer is as good or better than a human at pretty much all tasks. And so to get back full circle, this member of our group, his name is Brian. He is creating a project to build this AI avatar, which he thinks, and also I think, Shashank may disagree, but I think that it will actually be the kind of the key architecture to achieve like true AGI. So his company is called Mind Machine Learning. It is a really, kind of interesting company, still in the research and development phase. I think that they are working on trying to make it, trying to figure out like what exact profit structure they could have. Brian showed me his pitch deck last week. It looks like he's trying to argue or trying to sell it for some video games. So the idea would be is like the best NPC that you could possibly have in a video game, which I think is actually kind of a neat idea. Although the one thing that is not clear to me is if it will be cost efficient enough, because I think that there's going to be a lot of computing power required to make this happen. But I don't know. Brian seems like a pretty good developer, and he's recruited like a few people to his team, which also seem pretty smart. So we shall see what happens. But I am really interested in that project. So that, to me is one that I find pretty interesting. And I think, Shashank also agrees.
I didn't know he was going the gaming route. I'm
Yeah.
really happy about that.
Yeah.
I think that makes a lot of sense. And I've seen a lot of other companies try to make characters in 3D environments and teach them to move in realistic ways. So that seems pretty exciting. Um, let's think about some of the other ones that we've seen. Um, so I don't remember if we met Martian from Martian AI. We met their founders, where they explained how their model can figure out what kind of a query you're trying to ask and which model would be best suited to process that query and do it in a cost effective way. Um, I don't remember if GPT-4 was there at that time. I feel like at this point you try to use GPT-4 for everything, but it's kind of expensive. And their pitch was, we're going to give you uh, the cheapest model every single time that's going to do the best job. And I was like, that seems like a pretty good idea, especially because from what we understand, GPT-4 is also kind of like a mixture of experts where it routes the query to the best model that can handle it. Um, so that one was kind of interesting. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that was a pretty cool one. So to give even more background on it, the idea would be is they called this sort of like a machine learning router. I think that's what they
Model
call it.
router.
A model router. That's right, model router. So the idea is they would take your question. So let's imagine I asked the question like I don't know, like I can't think of a question like summarize this essay, summarize my thesis into an email that I can send to my colleagues, and then they would take that text and they would go through their database of models using their proprietary algorithm to try to figure out like which model was ideal. So it would go through some like the big models like Bard or ChatGPT and some of the open source ones. I think they had like 1,000 or so models that it would go through. Try to find the best one based off of the type of task that you had, the cost, the speed, etc., and then return back what it considers the best result. So in a certain sense, their model router was the ideal response for your query. In a certain sense, it's the absolute best machine learning model because it has all of the machine learning models together. So they gave a nice long presentation to our group, which was fantastic. It was Etan was the co-founder, and I can't remember the other guy's name, but anyways, that's okay. But yeah, it was a really interesting one. So Martian AI, that was another really interesting project that came to our group. And then Shashank, I remember there was actually one more that I thought was pretty interesting. It was, and actually this one has turned kind of big. It's Olama. Um, so we were doing another event at one of the venues that we tend to host events at every now and then. It's a law firm called Procopio. They're located in Palo Alto. They're fantastic. They've been really great stewards to the generative AI community. The and We had a few presentations on this day. I think we had three different presenters from different companies give a talk at this, and the founder of Olama, Jeffrey, Jeffrey Morgan, he came to me and he's like, Mark, give me like 1 minute, like 60 seconds to talk about this. Because, like, it was already, we were kind of like already like running late on time. And it's like, all right, just come on, give me this time. And then, like, he does like the most mind blowing demo in like 20 seconds. He, so For background, Olama uh, is a project that allows you to download any, well, not any, but a lot of the top open source models using Docker and then run it locally on your computer and interact with it. So, like, where a lot of the AI models have a lot of setup costs, or I shouldn't say cost, but a lot of time it takes you to, like, figure out, like, where to download it, how to download it, where to set it up, all the hardware requirements, all the dependencies, all this stuff. Here you can just run like one or two commands and you can get it running almost immediately. And it works on like Mac, Linux, Windows. Oh, actually, it doesn't work on Windows, just Mac and Linux. I got it running on my MacBook Air, and it was great. I think he had pre-downloaded the model, but he showed, interacting with, I think it was Llama or Llama 2, within like 20 seconds. And I think this project is, really going somewhere. So I found a couple bugs initially. I reached out to Jeffrey. I was like, hey, like, this is breaking on my Mac. He helped me debug it. And it seems like it's actually like one of the most popular ways to get some of these model running. I see it like posted quite a bit on Hacker News, and it's got over 30,000 stars now on GitHub. So yeah, it all started here. I mean, like, not really. I mean, Jeffrey has he can take all the credit for that. We just gave him a platform for like literally 2 minutes. But that one really stuck out to me as like an awesome project. So Shashank, I think, like, you've been able to introduce like a lot of cool stuff that you've seen, and I think that, like, if people come to the event or just listen to us on this podcast, they'll be able to be introduced to some of these projects. So like, Shashank, like, let's get personal for a second. Like, where do you see yourself in the future? Like, what do you want to do?
Mm-hmm. Um, Whatever I can, honestly. As long as I'm in the space, um, in the heat of it, working on something exciting, working on something innovative. I think this space is exploding. Um, I when I started the meetup last year, I thought we were kind of late. But then I read a blog post that said, if you feel like you're late to the AI game right now, it's like saying you're late to the internet in 2000. Um, so I think there's plenty of opportunity. I'm not quite sure what's in store for me, but I'm excited. I'm trying to learn as much as I can. I'm trying to follow all these companies and see what they're doing, see what's new, see where I can fit in with my skill set, and you know, hope for the best.
Okay, makes sense. Well, I don't know if 2000 was necessarily the best year to get into the internet because
Well, some early year then.
okay, let's say like 95
Sure, sure.
because yeah, I mean, I think like just a year later the whole thing came crashing down, like massive layoffs at AOL. But the good um, companies still remain after their values dropped like 95% or something like that.
I might have picked the wrong year, but like you get the general idea.
Yeah, yeah. Definitely get the general idea. Okay. Cool. So, is there anything else that you want to bring up for this episode?
Um, Come to the generative AI meetup in Sunnyvale, Palo Alto, Santa Clara, or wherever else we have it. Or honestly, just go to any meetup. It's cool to meet people in person. You, this is just like the tip of the iceberg that we talked about. We've met tons and tons of interesting people that is just very different from watching a talk online. You kind of get a feel for how they approach this field on a personal level and how you can get involved yourself. So get involved, be part of the community, and help it grow because it takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of commitment, a lot of people exploring ideas that will probably fail, but eventually something might stick.
Yeah, I like that. I just want everybody to know that just like remember, like the future is up to us, right? Because like we are building it, right? So it's like there's like a million ways that like uh, the future can come to be, and if we have people who are passionate about the space, like love building, love tinkering, like we can make the future that like we want, right? And I think that groups like this and other things are really important for just determining like how we can create like a future that we want to live in, and I think that's like super important. So yeah, I think we'll sign off for today. I really appreciate you guys listening to us. Hopefully, you got some value out of it. And I hope to see you next time on the number one generative AI meetup podcast in the world.
Thanks all.
Thanks.